Hello everyone, it's Michelle Patterson here with Angel Souls. And if this is the first time that you're coming to my channel, I am a spiritual intuitive and angelic medium. And when I say angelic medium, I don't mean in the sense of I just added that to my resume because it's trendy. This is literally my life's path, okay? So what I'm going to be sharing here with you, it's a little bit difficult because some of the stories that come out of these paranormal activity moments, you know, they're sad stories. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But first, I want to acknowledge that Hurricane Florence is about to hit the Carolinas as of the recording of this video. Now, I wanted to be very respectful to those people. I took a poll. I asked, do you really want me to post this, you know, or should I wait? And they overwhelmingly said, go ahead and post it, you know, give us something to watch while all this is going on. So if you are in the Carolinas or affected by Hurricane Florence in any way, please know that I am sending you my prayers, sending you my love, and you're in my thoughts. And please don't forget that Angel Souls is a very valuable place if you need support, okay? I also want to send that love and prayers to the people in Puerto Rico because I understand, I guess you have a storm heading your way now too. I didn't get all the details on that, but I'm thinking of you as well. Now, before we get started, few things we need to talk about. Because I am a spiritual intuitive and an angelic medium, I take this stuff very, very, very seriously. So before you ever listen to any sort of paranormal story, you should always protect yourself, whether that's invoking Archangel Michael to come in and shield you, to pray to God, Jesus, you know, what have you. Okay, so whatever works for you, go ahead and do that. I have chosen to light candles to keep the space nice and clear and pure. I've already invoked protection, and maybe I was a little wimpy. I did bring over my cross, and I'm a nervous eater, so I brought some Hail Marys. It's the wrong Mary, but whatever. Seemed a little holy, whatever. But anyway, we're going to get into it here. I do want to give a bit of a trigger warning. We are going to be talking about some heavy stories. So if you are in a low place right now, this may not be the video for you. Please go check out my other content. I post weekly. I do an angelic reading every single week. I also have meditations, a video on ascension, repeating numbers, you know, angelic signs. I'm going to be coming out pretty soon with how to get started with your guardian angel and how to get started with your spirit guides. So just there's that trigger warning. Along those same lines, this may not be the right content for very young children, so I'm not going to put like a over 18 thing on this because I think, you know, if you're 16, you should be able to handle this, I suppose. But again, listen to the trigger warning, okay? So you might want to, you know, make sure that the kids aren't around as we get into this. So I have literally been sitting around going, oh my gosh, how do I even make this concise? I guess we just jump in. I used to live in Hollywood. This was back when I was in my early 20s. And Hollywood is a very haunted place. And I'm not necessarily talking about Los Angeles as a whole. I'm talking about that, I don't know if it's a neighborhood or whatever. Every time you would go by a building, you could feel some sort of energy off of it. But this was when I was young and naive, and all I wanted was my first apartment. And I mean, I had, you know, lived in apartments before, but I always had roommates. This was my first shot at having one just for me and just on my own. So I go to this building right on the corner of Franklin and La Brea in Hollywood, right? So this is, you might be like, Michelle, that's a pretty good area. At least it was back then. For the most part, yeah, it was, except for this one building, which is really, really old. It's kind of at the bottom of the Hollywood Hills near, I think it's called Runyon Canyon, all that good stuff. It's right near all the action. So I'm thinking this is too good to be true. I show up to see this apartment, and I walk up and I feel strange, okay? I just have this, not a bad foreboding feeling, just kind of, the heck is this, you know? And if you live in Los Angeles or even Hollywood, you know exactly probably what building I'm talking about. But the shrubs were, at the time, really, really overgrown. And that in and of itself is right by the front door. That in and of itself was really creepy because anybody could be hiding in those bushes, right? And that was something I thought, I was like, oh, is this safe? I don't know. So anyway, you go up to the front door and there's like a cage, and there were these double doors, but they only kept one open. Very bizarre. Anyway, I meet with the property manager and I walk in to the lobby. This building, dirty, decrepit, smelling exactly how you would imagine it would smell, like a dirty old basement, mixed with a little bit of urine, potentially not pet urine, and stale cigarettes, and it looked like it had never been cleaned. But that wasn't the worst of it. When I walked in, I almost had a hard time breathing. It was like I was walking through thick liquid. The other thing that started to occur, I started to feel lost and a little disoriented and confused, and I didn't know why. I mean, this is pretty simple. We're just walking into a building to look at an apartment. And the manager is kind of walking ahead of me and he's talking to me, and there's just all this chatter going on. There's all this noise. It sounded like somebody was having like a huge gathering off in another room. And I asked him, I was like, wow, does that happen often? And he's like, what? You don't hear all that commotion going on? Someone's having a party. And he looked at me like, whoa. He goes, I don't hear anything. I was like, okay, well, maybe I just have like supersonic hearing. I don't know. So that was embarrassing, number one. And we just kept going through. And when I say I kept getting disoriented, like part of me could see that there were walls around me, and yet the walls didn't make sense. It was like I wasn't here and I wasn't there. I wasn't anywhere. I was just sort of in this purgatory. And that was very, very scary. So we walked down the hallway and I'm just doing everything I can. Step, step, step. I had to very conscientiously take a step, take a step, take a step. And then by the time we got to the apartment door, I kind of snapped back. Now I know this is going to sound crazy, but that's the best way I can describe it. Maybe some of you out there who are very sensitive, maybe you've experienced that yourself. So when he opens up this apartment, I walk in, and that's when I realized this place is cold. And I realized the front lobby was cold as well. It's Los Angeles. It's like 85 degrees outside. Why is the building cold? And I asked him, do you guys have an AC system on or something? He goes, oh no, this building doesn't have air conditioning, but people make do with fans and stuff like that. It doesn't get too bad in here. Then why is it cold? Why is it, so these are all these questions that are floating around in my head. But the weirdest part was I walked into this apartment and the sun was coming in through the window. It was streaming in. There's like the sunbeams, and the sunbeams kept getting interrupted. Like sometimes it looked like a shadow was going in front of the sunbeams, and other times it just looked like they broke apart and then came back together. Very weird, right? But again, I'm young at this time. I'm thinking I'm, just seeing things, whatever. While the manager is still talking about, oh, this, that, and the other, and this is what it has, blah, 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 I felt like there was a person in the room. And not just a person, a woman, which was strange. Like, why would I think that there's a woman in here? This feeling was so intense that I half expected to walk into the kitchen and see someone hiding out in there. And I even joked with him. I said, is someone in here? It feels like someone's in here. And he just kind of looked at me and goes, well, this place, everyone says that this place is haunted. I think it's just because it's an old building. But, I don't believe in that stuff. But I genuinely felt like there was somebody who was walking around and watching us. We're going to get into, because this is what I do for a living, I can talk to you a little bit about what people refer to as a ghost and what isn't. Because sometimes some of these stories I hear, it sounds more like people walked into what I call like memory dust. Okay, like that's a weird way to put it, I suppose. But when you're in an environment where the energy's never been cleansed, you can actually, people leave behind energetic imprints. Okay, so let's say you buy a house and it's never been energetically cleaned. Okay, and you walk in and you feel this creepy, angry feeling. People oftentimes automatically assume that's a ghost, and it's not. It's just you're feeling the turmoil of the last family that lived there. So this is why you hire someone like me, usually to come in and do a cleansing, or a shaman, or something like that to come in and do an energetic cleansing. You could do it on your own if you wanted to as well. And you do blessings around it, and then you sort of activate it with your own energy, right? So again, a lot of times the stories I hear, they're over sensationalized stories about energetic imprints that they're picking up on, not actual entities. Now knowing what I know and looking back at this situation, this was not an imprint situation. This was a being, all right? So I just want to make that distinction. This place had a great feeling about it though, despite there being like this weird, like, is somebody watching us? Like, what is going on? It was really cute because there was like sort of an indentation in the wall, which they had made shelves out of, and it's where a Murphy bed used to be. In the kitchen, there was a bench built right into the wall. There used to be a table that folded down in my particular apartment. It was already removed. There was a vanity that was built right into the wall. It was cute. This building was built in 1922. It had all these rumors around it. One of them was that Mary Pickford had stayed there while she was waiting for the Hotel Roosevelt to be completed. You know, she was part of the team that made that happen. I don't know if I believe that so much. I think if Mary Pickford actually stayed there, it'd be a landmark now. It wouldn't be some rundown apartment building, but whatever. There were also rumors that Marilyn Monroe had stayed there to escape the public eye. I don't even know if this was a hotel at that time. So, I mean, there was a lot of folklore kind of going around this building. But I had a good feeling about it. And it had a very, very welcoming feeling as well. So I went ahead and I took it. My first night in this apartment, it was just a studio apartment. I'm laying in bed watching my little tiny television with a VHS player, all, you know, like all built in one. I think I got it secondhand. It was already pretty old by the time I got a hold of it. And I'm just, you know, laying there, and I feel something start to walk up to me. And I was tired. I had just moved, and I just said in my head, nope, go. And I kept watching TV, and it backed up. So that was sort of my introduction to whatever the heck this thing was in this apartment. Then what ended up happening was I started to have dreams. And sorry for all the air quotes, but I have to. Dreams, okay? I had a dream that I woke up. Yeah, it's one of those stories. I had a dream that I woke up and looked at the bottom, like at the foot of my bed, and there was this woman sitting there. She looked like, she was kind of dressed like a pinup girl, okay? And she might have been, if I had to guess, an era of early 40s maybe, like the 40s era. And she was probably 25, 26 years old, so a little bit older than I was at the time. And of course, I'm like, you know, looking at her with like one eye, I'm like, where am I? What's happening? What's going on right now? And she tapped my foot. She was really big on calling me kid. And she said, it's all right, kid. I live here too. What? You know, this is this dream that I'm having. Maybe it really was a dream. I don't know, but very strange. And spirits can communicate with you through your dreams. This is called dream programming. When we do angelic work and you want to really do some deep healing, you know, you can do dream programming. But at the time, I had no control over this because I had no idea what was going on, right? So I was kind of at the whim and will of this high traffic area that was this apartment building, as I would come to discover. So this being is sitting at the foot of my bed, beautiful. I mean, just absolutely beautiful, and just smiling at me and informing me that she lives there. And she also informed me not to worry. She said, don't worry, kid. I'm going to look out for you. In another dream, she said something similar and said, I like you. I like you. I don't like that man you're with, though. And I remember I woke up from that dream because I knew that the guy I was with at the time was no good for me, not to be trusted. I knew this, but I ignored it. But what was interesting was every time he came over, he would never come over to the apartment. One, maybe because it was kind of disgusting, and he he had a really nice apartment that was kind of near Santa Monica. So why the heck would he want to hang out, you know, at my place? But anytime he would come in there, he would not spend very much time. And she would express to me through feeling that she didn't approve of him. She did not like him. And he just would not come around that much. Okay, so this is kind of this entity that I had to contend with, that I had to deal with. So we're just going to stick a pin in that. There's more to come about her a little later on. This is the story I'm really nervous about telling because I don't know what happened. Even me now looking back, I'm like, what was that? And we'll get into a little bit of a talk here as well about being multidimensional beings and a timeline, and it not being actually linear, that we sort of orbit around our own timelines, okay? And sometimes they intersect, and you might have a moment of deja vu, or you might think that you're looking at yourself in a different time and space. Freaky, right? So, having prepped you for that, let me get into the second part of this story, and then we'll end this video for today, and I'll start up part 2. But I came home one evening, really long day. I was exhausted. Had to get into the cage, right? And the stupid key never worked. This is just an aside. This has nothing to do with ghosts, but it just was annoying, and I want to tell somebody. I couldn't get the dang door open half the time. You had to anyway, it was impossible to get in. You got these creepy bushes. Anybody could have been sneaking around in the bushes, whatever. So I finally get in, and as soon as I look up at the ceiling, I start to feel dizzy. Now I'm inside, I'm in the lobby, okay? I start feeling, like I said, dizzy, sick, that nauseous feeling when you're about to pass out. I started getting that. Incredibly disoriented, kept blinking, trying to get everything into focus. And then there was this smell. This putrid, the building already smelled bad as it was, but this was different. This was, how do I describe it? It was almost like the smell of decay and mildew and sort of metallic-y smell, a little bit of a blood smell. Just moldy, mushroomy, earthy, just all of it. And then I started getting these visions. Now this was, of course, as you can imagine, really, really freaky for me. I'm about to pass out on this filthy, nasty floor in this roach-infested building. Roaches this big. They laughed at you when you tried to spray them with Raid, and they would wave their little leg around nice try, and they keep on going. I don't want to pass out on this floor. No, thank you. So I'm mostly just trying to get myself over to my apartment to safety. If I'm going to pass out, I can pass out on my bed or whatever. Instead, it was like my inner vision overtook my outer vision. I really want to stress that this is not like the movies. Now, some people might experience it that way, and I did have a moment when I was on the roof. I saw something, which I'll talk about it really quickly here, and then I'll go back to this other story, but just a warning, it's triggering. So again, if you're triggered by certain dark topics, certain heavy topics, this is where you want to click off the video. But there was one time I was up on the roof having a beer with someone, and this person sitting right here and talking to me, and over his shoulder, I saw a man in a white shirt that was untucked, and he just kind of had his arms out like Jesus on the cross, and he just fell right off the building. Now, in that case, he was a little transparent, sort of how you see it in the movies. Very movie-like, but other than that, these other experiences were not like that. And that was one of the dark things about this apartment. If you walked through, not the apartment, the apartment building, if you walked through, I even went upstairs at one time, I would have visions of these horrific things happening. And suicide was very, very, very prevalent in this location. So I don't know if people were driven to madness or what the heck the deal was, but I would get visions of, I don't want to get too graphic, but just I could see things. So that happened a lot. Pardon the digression. We're going to go back to the story where I just walked in. I'm feeling sick. There's this putrid smell in the air. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I'm disoriented. And then the visions. Okay, so I had these visions going on kind of off to one side. It's going to take me a second to explain this, but understand it happened in the blink of an eye. Okay, or maybe 2 seconds or something. But kind of off to one side, it was like the Great Gatsby happening over here, like there's a party and people are, and the women are in their like long gowns, and that was very, very confusing. But then there was something else going on over here. And this is that one where to this day, I'm not really sure what the heck happened. If I was seeing myself in a different timeline, because as I say, time is not linear. That's just a human construct, okay? So what you perceive as a past life and what ancient traditions will say is a past life, it's actually more circular and it's orbital, right? So it's all kind of happening simultaneously, yes? And so sometimes your worlds can collide. Sometimes, like I said, in a minor way, that would be deja vu. In other ways, it could be this, but I'm not sure. And I always be honest with my audience. I don't sit here and pretend like I know everything. I don't sit here and pretend like I've got it all figured out. Some things don't make sense to me. I don't know the mind of the universe, okay? So I don't know if I was seeing myself or if I was actually seeing a whole other entity, whatever. Over here, there is a strawberry blonde-haired woman, gorgeous, very glamorous. That's the word I want to use for her. Very, very glamorous. She had the very, very high penciled in eyebrows, very 30s style makeup. She had this slinky gown on that was sort of taupey, metallic-y, sort of a silver color. Kind of hard to see, and she's standing in the middle of these men who are wearing tuxedos. And when I saw her, so this thing was happening over here, and then I snapped over and saw her, and she's really beautiful, just really throwing her head back and laughing, and she's just being the life of the party, just doing her whole thing. And then, I kid you not, so actually she was over like this, so she's, laughing, and then she locks eyes on me. I went so cold that I was paralyzed in my spot. I could not move. And she started walking towards me. And the look she had on her face was sort of like, what are you doing here? Who are you? What is that? I can't even really describe how I managed to move away from her. But, while I'm feeling kind of paralyzed to my spot and she's starting to come towards me, the voltage just going through my entire body. We're going to get into like what psychologists might think of this, because I know what some of you might be thinking, you're nuts, you had a moment of psychosis. And I know we love to throw schizotypal or schizophrenia on these kinds of stories. But in my opinion, can there be something like that for some people going on? Of course there can be, but I think that gets overused in the psychological community. And I think it's a tool to discredit something that's unexplainable. And if it's unexplainable, we can't have control over it. And we as humans, when we can't have control over something, we have to deny it. We have to pretend like it's not there. So it'd be very easy to listen to what I'm describing right now and make those assumptions. I just would offer up a word of caution around that. Okay, we shouldn't ignore what is beyond the physical. The universe is incredibly expansive, and there are lots of things that we don't understand about it. But in this moment, this woman is coming towards me. And like I said, the voltage just kind of ignited in me, and it felt like a million little pins of electrodes just, pulsing in me, and to the point where it was starting to hurt. It was starting to really hurt my physical body. Now, some people might say that's adrenaline. I don't deny that there was probably a whole lot of adrenaline going through my body in this moment, but this was not adrenaline. Trust me, I've had many moments of adrenaline rushes. This was different. And yet, I don't mess around. When something feels like it's overtaking me, I put my foot down. Even when I didn't know what I was doing with, spiritual energy, I still in this moment was like, stop it, get away from me. And I remember thinking in my head, I command you to get away from me. And she backed up. In my very, very pained body, I had to go, when you come into the building, I had to go right. So that was kind of going off to where she was. And this is where things get even weirder. You're like, what? Are this getting even crazier? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I start going down the hallway, and how do I describe this? In my mind, I had this vision of her being far away from me, far away from me, still with that look of, get back here, you know, who are you? Come here. What are you doing here? And she starts kind of running towards me, but she's far away. I could see her dress, you know, moving back and forth. She had it picked up on one side so she could move faster. She wasn't really running. She was just like kind of walking quickly and very, very purposefully coming at me. And yet, feeling wise, it felt like she was right here in my face, so much so that I was twitching and I was turning around, really having almost like a breakdown, just feeling so terrorized by this moment. I run to my door. I'm shaking. Like, I'm shaking so bad I can't even get my key into the thing, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I remembered, God help me. Pretty simplistic. And I would say that to anybody out there. You know, you can say a lot of things. God help me. Jesus help me. If you work with Jesus, you can call on the archangels. Archangel Michael help. Or you could just say shields up. I command you to leave. These are all ways to protect yourself. You can always imagine too, you know, I think it's better to, if you believe in God, to, you know, invoke God's light and protection. That just, and I'm not saying that this soul, whatever this was, it could have been me looking at myself, for all I know. And as tenacious as I am, I get why she would be chasing me down the hall. Like, no, seriously, come back here. What are you doing? What are you? But I don't really think that she was evil. I think that she was just very determined, and it was frightening me. So just a little tidbit, if ever you feel frightened, you can invoke the holy light or God's light or the, you know, whatever you call it, okay? So I'm at my door, I'm shaking, and then I'm like, okay, you know, and God help me. I get the door open, I come in, and I'm just like I couldn't breathe, I couldn't catch my breath, and I still felt like I was going to pass out. I managed to get into my bathroom, and I'm only including this in the story because I think it's funny. I get into the bathroom. My heart was thudding so hard, like if I turned just so you could kind of see my neck doing this. My heart was just like boom, 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 boom. And I had to just, you know, come inside my apartment. And you would think that the entity that was in there would have said something. She was there, but she was kind of like I don't think she wanted to approach me. You know what I mean? She was just kind of like there's too much already. I was already kind of short-circuiting. So I got myself all calmed down. But that was a story that I've never told anybody. And every time I would walk through the hallways, there would always be something. There would always be some sort of like thinking that someone is right next to you. There were times that I would be like, oh, excuse me, because I felt someone bump into me and nobody was there. But anyway, we're going to hit pause on this story. Check out part 2. We'll get further into that entity that was in my apartment and the ghost that I saw as if he were an actual man standing right in front of me. So join me next time, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.